And joining us now is Toni McFadden, pro-life advocate and speaker, as well as author of the book Redeemed: My Journey After Abortion. Welcome back to EWTN, Toni.
Thanks
so much for being here. I want to get started just by touching on your personal story. I know that abortion is a very personal subject for you. Could you talk to us a bit about your witness?
Well, it was the greatest regret of my life. And if I could go back in time, I would give my child life in a heartbeat, knowing what I know now. And the reason I share my story is so that someone who has gone through it know that there can be healing on the other side, but also if I could spare anyone from going through what I went through and to know the truth that I didn't know at that time, it is worth it for me to share my story over and over and over again.
Mm. And I can see that. It's still emotional.
Yeah.
It's so emotional. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Would you mind sharing just a little bit?
Yeah, I think, number one, I'm just amazed that God has called me to this place for this time to use my story, because if it wasn't for him, I would not have a story to tell. But the regret never leaves you. I mean, I sit here healed, knowing who I am in Jesus Christ, but there's still the consequences of my actions that will never leave me. But I believe that the more that I share my story, the more young women or women who are just unaware, because we are in this battle of hearing from the other side that it's not a big deal and that it's normal, and it disregards women like myself who know that they know this is not normal, and you will never be the same from it. And so I think that's where the emotion comes from, because I can't go back and change that. It is so permanent, and this is why I love the pro-life movement. This is why I love what we do, because we're trying to meet these women in their crisis rather than allowing them to just try to figure that out on their own.
Yes.
And what would you say to those who maybe, and we hope and pray that people are watching this and maybe they're going through this and they're hearing you and they're confused. What would you say to them right now?
Well, I think 3 practical things is that we need to keep speaking up, keep being practical in the sense of educating women. A lot of them don't know what they're doing, and they walk into an abortion clinic and they're deceptive with what they're telling them. So I think education is key, and I touched on this earlier. Meeting them in the crisis, getting them out of that crisis, whether it's financial, whether it's doing diaper drives, whatever we can to support her in that moment, rather than just making her feel like she can't get out of it. Because I know for myself, I couldn't see beyond my crisis. And this is another reason I love the pro-life movement, because we're constantly doing that. Where, those who pray outside of the abortion clinics, those who, like myself, have done baby showers for girls who didn't know that they would be able to make it, or housing, whatever it is. I love how the pro-life movement comes together, and they are meeting the needs of these women and trying to alleviate the crisis for them.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Moving on to sort of another topic, we know that abortion in the Black community, there's a disparate rate there. As a Black pro-life woman leader yourself, could you speak to that?
Yes, this is something that I am very intentional about speaking about, because even as a Black woman, this is one of the hardest conversations to have within the Black community.
Right.
And when you are educated, and you know the history of Planned Parenthood and the deception and the racist roots, it's a wake-up call. Planned Parenthood kills 360 Black babies a day, and we are rapidly declining because of this. And I think that it is a battle, but it's a battle that I'm willing to take on, and to continue to educate the church as well, and not to be afraid to talk about it. Because one other thing I'll point out, if Black lives are going to matter, it needs to start in the womb.
Absolutely.
Amen.
Toni, do you have any advice for people who want to get involved? Where they can start? What should they do? What would you say?
I usually tell people, go right to your local pregnancy center. They need the funds. They need the word to be out. and use your God-given gifts. Not everyone's called to speak or do other things. God has given us each gifts that we can use to further this cause. So I think Allison, who was on, mentioned there's Students for Life, there's live action. If you're an artist, if you are great at writing, any of those gifts, if you can use those to further, to defend those who cannot defend themselves, use those things.
Well, Toni, we're so excited for your speech later on. Stay warm out there. God bless you.
Thank you
Toni
so
McFadden,
much.
thanks for
Thank
joining
you.
us.